Hello everybody, welcome back to a new video. In today's video, I'm going to go over the catalog flashback for 4th of July / robotic themed weekend in July 2017. So yeah, let's get started. So if you don't know what the catalog flashback series is, it's pretty much a series where I go over a past catalog update, event, or release of items just for nostalgia's sake, because it's fun to look back at some of the things that have happened in Roblox's past and how they have changed from then until now. So of course, since 4th of July just happened pretty recently, I think this is a very fitting weekend to go over to see how they have released 4th of July items in the past year, with this one specifically being 2017. And for some reason, they actually merged 4th of July items with a different theme, with mostly being kind of robotic themed items. So we'll actually see two themes here, which is pretty interesting because they usually stick to one, but we actually got two this weekend here. So the first item that released here was the Golden Eagle Warrior for 150 Robux. Then the next item here that released was the Mimic Cooler for 300 Robux. And the next one that released here was the Robo Arm Cannon for 500 Robux. And then we also got the Elder Animation Package, which released for 250 Robux. So first off, right over here, we do have the Golden Eagle Warrior. This is actually a pretty cool looking helmet. It's definitely themed for the 4th of July season, as the eagle is definitely one of the kind of symbols when you think of 4th of July, so definitely makes sense here to have an eagle themed item. This is a pretty cool looking golden helmet here that has the wings right over here. They have the front head of the eagle, so definitely a very creative design for a helmet item, and definitely not so bad of a price either to release for 150 Robux for a golden helmet. It's actually pretty good for Roblox standards, so definitely not a bad new item here that release is a part of this weekend that you can still purchase today, almost 10 years later, so definitely a pretty cool release here. Next up right over here was the Mimic Cooler. This one is also kind of 4th of July themed, as a lot of people bring these kind of coolers out to the beach or other areas to watch fireworks, so it definitely makes sense, but the theming here is pretty interesting. It being a Mimic Cooler, obviously being kind of like an evil version of it, pretending to be a cooler, so a pretty interesting idea here. It is a gear item as well, so probably not much usage anymore nowadays, but still a pretty cool idea, and definitely one that does give off the summer feeling, so definitely a decent release here as a part of this weekend that you can still purchase here for 300 Robux, so not too bad. Now the next one right over here, this is the first one of the robot theme that we did see for this weekend as well, which is the Robo Arm Cannon. This one also looks pretty cool, definitely has a lot of detail that went into it, and is another gear item similar to the Mimic Cooler, so probably not much usage nowadays when you do wear it, but still definitely looks pretty cool, and it's definitely not too bad of a gear item to have released here that you can still purchase today for 500 Robux. Now the next one here is the Elder Animation Package. They released animation packages quite often back then because this is around when they first published them, so they definitely wanted to make quite a few new ones to bring some support to this new feature, so this is definitely a pretty cool bundle here to have been released, and it is still on sale much like all the other animation packages for around 300 Robux, so definitely a pretty cool bundle here to have been released that you can still purchase today. Next up right over here, we did see the release of the Patriotic Eagle Shoulder Friend, which was another 4th of July item here. They released for 75 Robux. We did also see the Soundwave Mask released for 100 Robux, which is another robotic themed item. Then we did see the American Flag Lapel Pin released for 25 Robux, which is a very cheap item. And we did also see the Freedom's Mohawk released for 300 Robux. So right over here, the Patriotic Eagle Shoulder Friend released, which is a pretty cool looking shoulder friend. It is actually off sale here, so it does make me think that it kind of went off sale unexpectedly, because a lot of these 4th of July items, especially for 2018 and 2019, went off sale without giving any timers, so that is the chance that could have happened here, where it just kind of went off sale without people knowing it would go off sale, or it just wasn't mentioned there in the tweets that it was going off sale. So it's definitely a pretty cool item here. It was very cheap, and it's a pretty fun little eagle here with some American flag themed items, so definitely not a bad shoulder friend. And there was also a different one that released a few years later, which was the Miss Patriot Eagle Shoulder Friend. So there are two different variants of this kind of item, so if you were able to get this one, it was a nice cheap timed item that you were able to get during this weekend. Next up right over here, we did get to the Soundwave Mask, and once again this was another kind of robotic themed item. This one actually was pretty popular here, got almost 25,000 favorites, so definitely one of the more popular ones from this weekend. You also may recognize this item but in a different color, as it was retextured a few times already as well, so definitely one that Roblox seems to like as well, where they have released another variant or two of this item as well. So definitely a pretty cool item here that released for relatively cheap price that you can still purchase today as a nice on sale item here. Next up right over here, we do have the American Flag Lapel Pin. This one is also still on sale for a relatively cheap price of around 50 Robux. So unfortunately, due to the price floor update, it is no longer 25 Robux. It's probably around 50, so it did double in price, but I think 50 actually makes sense for this kind of item. So definitely a pretty cool lapel pin. Not too bad if you are from the USA. This could be something of interest for you, but a decent new item release here that you're still able to purchase for a very cheap price. Next up right over here, we do have Freedom's Mohawk, which is a mohawk with the USA colors, which is red, white, and blue. And mohawks usually don't do super well, as most people do not care for them as a hairstyle too much, but I think this is a nice kind of addition to the mohawks that we do have. And for those that are interested in mohawks, this is definitely a very nice looking one themed after 4th of July. So definitely a nice new item here. I think it's definitely underrated given it doesn't have that many favorites, and you can still purchase it today for the original price of 300 Robux. Now moving on here, we did actually get quite a few more timed items here. We did get the 4th of July 2017 fireworks, which did actually have a timer with them right over here, and they were available for only 75 Robux, so very cheap item there. We did also get the Independence top hat, which released for 250 Robux, which was also on a timer of only 1 day, so another timed item here that you could have gotten. We did also get a new limited item, which was the Immortal Sword American Splendor, which released for 10,000 Robux with a stock of 10,000, which is insane, but it did actually have a timer of 1 hour, so not all the stock sold out, of course, but this was definitely a departure from the previous iterations of the series. We did also get a new hair item, which was the red head with American bow, which released for 75 Robux, and we did technically get 2 more new items here, but they were not specifically released for this weekend. They were actually 2 free items that were themed after different sponsors here. The first one being the Kids Choice Sports Helmet, which released for free during this weekend, and the second one was the Cheerios Bee, which also released for free during this weekend as well. So right over here we do have the 4th of July 2017 fireworks. This is a pretty interesting gear item here. Of course it was limited time only, so it's exclusive to 2017 if you were there, and it hasn't returned since. It's a pretty decent looking kind of bundle of fireworks, definitely themed after 4th of July with the color scheme and stars and stripes patterns, so not a bad item here, but unfortunately given that it is a gear item, I don't see it releasing anymore, so if you're able to get it during this weekend, this is likely the only time you will ever be able to get this item, so not a bad off-sale item if you're able to purchase it during this time, and also given that it was pretty cheap at only 75 Robux, there's likely a decent amount of users that were able to purchase it. Next up right over here, we do have the Independence top hat. Once again, another kind of timed item here that we did get for 4th of July, only released for 1 day for 250 Robux, so definitely not too many users actually have this one, but it is a pretty underrated one. I think the design of it is actually pretty nice with this kind of teardrop pattern around it, and it says 4th of July on top, so definitely not too bad of an item here that if you're able to purchase during this time was definitely a pretty nice off-sale item to own. Next up right over here, Immortal Sword American Splendor. This one was actually pretty controversial when it released because it had 10,000 copies in stock with a 1 hour timer, and this was different from the previous iterations of the series because all of them had released for 10,000 Robux with only a stock of 100 copies, so they were all released for very rare copy amounts, but this one released with a very high one with 10,000 available. Of course not all 10,000 sold, only about 400 did, so it didn't end up that common, but still this is definitely a departure from the past iterations of the series, and many people did not like it because of that, so it ended up being one of the cheaper Immortal Swords for a very long time here. But it did end up selling out after an hour, after the timer had run out, and about 455 did end up selling, so not the rarest thing in the world, but definitely not too common either. And it's a pretty cool looking Immortal Sword here, definitely a pretty nice design here with the red and blue stripe pattern on the top, and there's a golden design for the bottom, so it's a pretty cool looking Immortal Sword, but due to it being a bit different from the others in the series, it didn't do super well initially, but it's done pretty well now, selling for pretty high prices. So if you do want to get this one, it will cost you a couple $100,000, but still it's definitely a pretty nice addition to the Immortal Sword series. Next up right over here, we do have the red head with American bow that released. It is a orange hairstyle with an American themed bow in the back, so definitely pretty cool looking hairstyle here, and if you do have some kind of head cover up, you can just cover up the USA part and still wear this hairstyle, even if you don't want to rip a USA bow on the back. So definitely a pretty cool looking hairstyle on its own, and one you can still buy today for a relatively cheap price, so definitely not too bad. And then next up right over here, we do have the 2 free items that released to end off this weekend. The Kids Choice Sports Helmet. This was free, of course, so has probably hundreds of thousands of owners. Definitely not too bad of an item. Once again, has a mohawk similar to the Freedom's mohawk, so definitely a pretty similar item there, but it is just a sponsored item here, so it is an item that you will be walking around with a logo, but most users that were on Roblox at this time were likely able to purchase this item for free, and it was a very common item back then, so definitely not too bad of a free item here to release for every user to purchase. And same case here with the Cheerios Bee right over here. This one was also free, another one that anybody could have bought during this time, so if you were able to purchase this item for free, it's definitely a nice off-sale item to have gotten during the time it was available. So yeah, that was the first weekend of July in 2017, which was the July 4th / robotic themed weekend, and it was actually a pretty cool weekend here. We got some new limiteds, we got some new timed items, and we got a bunch of cool new items here, so this is definitely a pretty nice weekend to have participated in if you were paying attention to items at the time. But yeah, that is this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys next time.